I'm Jeff Hughes. I'm a District Manager for Defense and Security for the National Capital Region at Esri, Canada. I'll be kind of moderating today's session. We have Pierre Bilodeau, who's our Industry Manager for Defense and Security, and he's going to run through a whole number of resources that are available to you. And Brian Lads is our Technical Solutions Specialist, and he's going to give us a demo and run us through some tips and tricks. We are recording today's session, so you can expect an email from us with the link to the recording after. Please share your thoughts. You're also going to receive an exit survey at the end of the webcast, and we'd appreciate your feedback here moving forward. We are definitely open to questions, so please use the Q&A panel. We'll be watching that over the course of the webcast, and we'll get back to that near the end. And there's also a couple of Esri Canada producers behind the scenes. So if you're having any issues, please ask them any questions, and they will be happy to help you. And thank you to them for helping us today. A number of things to get through on the agenda today, but basically it falls into a couple of different categories. Pierre and I are going to run through a number of resources, a number of templates and tools and training opportunities for you. We're hoping that you're going to be able to take something away from this and use it to push WebGIS forward within your organizations. And then the other aspect of the webcast today is that Brian will show us some tips and tricks for setting up your own dashboards, creating your own products, and some lessons learned from what we've been experiencing working with a lot of organizations across Canada over the last number of weeks. You've probably seen this. This is a kind of a guiding vision for us in terms of creating, very strong geospatial tools for measurement, for visualization and mapping, analysis and modeling. If we do a good job of creating tools in those areas with your feedback and in continually improving the platform, that leads us to better planning, better decision making, and ultimately action. And we've certainly seen a lot of planning and decision making that's had to happen related to the COVID-19 response. And in this particular case, we've got layered on top of this a number of the activities, tasks, business functions that organizations are layering in everywhere from municipalities all the way up to federal government agencies, private sector, public sector, et cetera. And so it really falls within the framework of GIS. And we've certainly seen a lot of very excellent examples of this that continually is, quite frankly, to surprise and amaze us. Johns Hopkins University dashboard came out early and has been a real game changer. In fact, there's a series of webinars coming up on the importance of that if you're interested in following up on that. But lots of examples from lots of different organizations. And our goal today is not to walk through all of them, but just to show you a couple of examples of how organizations are using this technology. Another way that you can kind of look at it is across different types of users and different types of functionality. And this is certainly a way that we are looking at providing support and also providing templates. Pierre is going to talk a little bit about some of the template applications that have already been released and re-released that you might find interesting, but also how that applies across different types of users, and of course using that concept of geospatial layers as a collaboration tool to help us gain better understanding, improve situational awareness, and lead to better decision making. It also still fits within the framework of the three fundamental systems of a geospatial platform. We obviously have the system of record. In this case, and for COVID-19, we're going to talk about cases, deaths recovered, et cetera, active cases. Today's webcast, though, is really more focused on that system of engagement. It's really focused on that communication and collaboration of sharing and filtering information to provide to the right people at the right time. In some cases, we're architecting dashboards to meet a pure kind of public engagement type of user. In some cases, it's a subset of the public, the open data community, data scientists, et cetera. In some cases, that's inside of our organizations. But this webcast is really more focused on the system of engagement. There's obviously also a lot of space within the platform for the analytics and the system of insights. We're not going to focus on that quite so much today, but please provide us feedback in the survey and in the Q&A It's definitely an area that a lot of folks we know are working on, and we're interested in going down that path as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Pierre. Pierre is going to talk to us about some more widely available resources, and then I'll talk about some stuff that's happening a little closer to home. Pierre?
Okay, thank you, Jeff. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to update you on the latest Esri GIS resources and solution available to you to help with your response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So first, I want to do a quick review of ArcGIS Hub. So what is Hub? It's a community engagement platform for ArcGIS Online that is pretty easy to configure and that can be used to organize not only your people, your data, your tools, your web pages, your events, all in one place. So with ArcGIS Hub, you can leverage your existing data, your GIS application, and work together with your stakeholders, your unit members to maximize engagement, communications, and collaboration. And to jumpstart your response, we're providing you with an ArcGIS Hub coronavirus response template at no cost. So this template includes materials and configurations to rapidly deploy your own ArcGIS Hub for COVID-19. And you can use this template on your own website in the context of your own organization with your own local data. So Esri has created its own COVID-19 GIS Hub. You can see the link here, goesri.com/coronavirus. And this is where you'll find applications to support your understanding of the pandemic, some dashboard, and relevant GIS resources to create your own applications. So this hub includes a collection of data sets such as demographic data, economic data, social, and other data from authoritative sources, from our user community, and also from our business partners. And these materials are updated daily with new content as it becomes available. You'll see when you go there, this hub is mostly US-centric. So we have created our own version, which Jeff will show you in a few minutes. If you look at the top right of this website, you will see a tab called Resources. So when you go to the Resources tab, this is where you find more tools, the solutions, which I'm going to cover in a few minutes, best practices, relevant learning skills, and how to get started with your own application. So let's review some of these solutions. So these solutions are free, and they're supported configuration provided by Esri. They can be deployed either on ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS Enterprise, or ArcGIS Pro. So when you look at these applications, go under the read more under the software requirements to see what this solution was designed for. So starting from the right, because it was the first one, is what we call the community response solution. So it's a collection of maps and apps used to monitor the coronavirus cases, to communicate the impact with your community, to inventory, testing, and meal sites, and share information with the public. Now this solution, this is where you go and find your coronavirus response hub template, this free template I mentioned earlier. So once you deploy this solution, you can then choose to use all the apps in the solution or just those that meet your requirements for your own organization. The one in the middle is the business continuity solution, and it's designed for organizations that need to know who is able to work and where the employees are working from, so you get a better understanding of the operational capacity of your workforce. You can monitor the status of your facilities and also communicate any disruptions with your employees or your customers. And the one on the newer one there on the left is the coronavirus testing site solutions. So there you find maps and apps used to identify population at risk. You can locate the optimal testing locations, manage testing site status. You can share this testing information with the public. It also comes with a mobile app used by the public to locate the nearest testing site near their home. So that's the first three. There are newer ArcGIS solutions for COVID-19. So on the left there, you can see this recovery dashboard, and It includes these recovery indicators and specific metrics identified for reopening the United States. So it's US centric, but you can use those and you can configure this dashboard to monitor your own matrix established for your own organization or your region in Canada. So this is a template to get you started. The one in the middle is the coronavirus wellness check, which is a collection of maps and apps that can be used by public health staff to engage volunteers and check the wellness of vulnerable people throughout your community. And the newest one on the right, the Small Business Recovery Solution, it's used by economic development organizations to measure the impact of the pandemic on small businesses. You can report even potential violations and also promote recovery of small businesses in your region. So there are more solutions available, so you can go to solutions.arcgis.com. There's a total of 8 solutions now, but I encourage you to look at them to see if they fit your requirements and give them a try. Now, Jeff mentioned the Johns Hopkins University COVID-19 dashboard. You'll see that on our hub, on the Esri Canada hub. It's perhaps the most famous example of coronavirus case tracking in the world. So experts at JHU, they're located in Baltimore, have been at the forefront of this international response in first publishing their dashboard for global cases by country. And since late January, their dashboard has been hosted on ArcGIS Online and has had over 4 million views per hour at its peak in mid-April, and so far has over 1.5 billion view count to date. So as you can see, these dashboards are highly scalable apps if they configure the right way, and this is what Brian's going to show you some tips later in this webcast. When you look at this dashboard, front and center, you see a heat map of cumulative cases across the globe, and you can see which countries managed to contain the virus better by the size of the red sphere on the country. So this data is updated in near real time throughout the day by Johns Hopkins University. Esri also created a story map to explain the trends in this global pandemic. And this story map, you can see the link here, includes maps showing the key aspect of each country's situation using data updated daily from Johns Hopkins University. So if you like that format, go and see this story map. And we're going to share these slides at the end through an email. You'll be able to get these links. Now, if you're interested, you can also submit your work and share your COVID-19 maps and apps with other users around the world on ArcGIS Online. So we have 3 categories: apps, ArcGIS story maps, or ArcGIS hub sites. So at this time, we're going to conduct a survey, a poll online, and we're going to ask you if you have created any COVID-19 related web GIS products so far.
So I just opened the poll, Pierre, and it's a minute. So if you have a chance, we'll just do that fairly quickly while you wrap up, Pierre.
Okay. If you're interested in getting more news on a weekly basis, we have a weekly newsletter for COVID-19. You can go to this link, coronavirusresource.esri.com, and subscribe to this newsletter to get weekly updates on resources, solutions, and also the applications from our user community. There is also a place where, if you're interested, for Esri staff, partners, users like you, for the GIS community who wants to connect, collaborate, share best practices, ask questions on the COVID-19 on the GeoNet community. So feel free to join this group if you want, and you can see the link there for this COVID-19. So I'm going to turn it now over to Jeff to look at the result of the poll. Over to you, Jeff.
I think the poll is still finalizing its tally, so I think we'll let that one go. We'll come back to that a little bit later on.
Okay.
So if we go to the next slide, I'm going to spend a few minutes running through some resources that are a little more closer to home and talk a little bit about them. And rather than run through some slides. We thought we would show some stuff that's going on. This is the Public Health Agency of Canada dashboard. And what's compelling about this is it's an authoritative source, and also that it was created and deployed in very short order. Work started on this dashboard on a Tuesday morning in late March, and 4 business days and half a non-business day later, on Saturday, it was released to the public in both English and French, and also in a mobile-friendly and desktop-friendly manner. So it was a very good example of a dashboard that was configured quite quickly in response and is being updated as an authoritative source. I've now come to the Esri Canada COVID-19 resource landing page, and I'm certainly not going to spend time going through all of the elements on this site. In many ways, this was a similar exercise. In mid-March, this site was put together by our technology adoption team, and they put it together over the course of a couple of days. And over the first month and 6 weeks, it changed considerably in terms of additional items being added, additional products, data sources, et cetera. And it's really expanded significantly. And I would say that when we were preparing for this webcast, I was going to say this landing page hadn't changed too much over the last little while, but if you haven't come to this page in the last few days, some enhancements have been made, and we'll show those. I'm going to talk for a second about the data that drives this particular web map. If I zoom in, I can go to the provincial level, and I can ultimately get into the health regions. And you can see that I'm getting attribute information about each of the health regions that then aggregates up to the provincial level. This data is an aggregation of data coming from a whole bunch of sources that our technology adoption team work with. They've had to come up with some creative solutions, and we can certainly take that conversation offline if anyone's interested. But it represents the data source that drives a lot of the aspects on this hub page. But as you'll hopefully see, drives things that are happening on other people's websites as well and their products. We've changed this a little bit. One of the things, this data was always part of our site, but now it's been exposed in a slightly different manner. I can filter the daily reported cases by any province. As I mentioned, it was there before, but we can just access it in a different way. And these dashboards are interactive, and Brian's gonna run through that. Here, this is a set of information products that the teams have created, which we now know are being used to get the creative juices flowing, and people are using them as ideas and concepts for building their own information products, which is exactly what we're looking to do. And then, of course, you can see links to the Public Health Agency of Canada dashboard, as well as 4 provincial dashboards and sites that really have a geospatial approach to sharing COVID-19 related data, which is fantastic. And down below, we've got a number of different links to a number of different information products being produced by Canadian organizations. Some of these are story maps, some of them are web app builders, some of them are hub pages, and they range in functionality all the way to, Chester, Nova Scotia's Response Hub, which is fantastic. So you're capable of using a browser just as well as anybody else, but I'm going to show you a couple of examples of organizations that have taken this information and then mashed that up and used it with their own data. This here is a web app builder application. It's actually available on the open internet. It's being hosted on D&D's Mapping and Charting Establishment's ArcGIS online account. All the data in this application is unclassified. They're using this application for situational awareness to bring in other information. Moving into flood season, D&D is always worried about logistics and whatnot, and so they can turn on things like airports and ports and various data layers, but they've also are ingesting that exact same web service of cases that's being updated on a daily basis, and they don't need to worry about that data being updated. It's just flowing into their application. And you can see I can get population and case information at the health region level, which is pretty interesting. This is another example, and actually this one isn't available on the open web. We've been given access to demo this to you today, and so we're thankful for that access. This is being produced by Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, and this is a landing page showing potential vulnerabilities in Canada's food system. And as I scroll down the page, you're going to see you know, that there's a lot of familiarity with many of the components within this website to what you saw on the landing page. And that's exactly what we're trying to do is leverage this information, leverage the templates, leverage the code and get up and running quickly and allow us to focus on the actual domain and business functions of our particular organization or area. So in this particular case, the effort has been put into some applications. But again, as we scroll down, a lot of the things on this page are going to look awfully familiar to some of the stuff that we've already seen. One of the applications that they have is looking at food system assets. Here they've got a series of just web maps that have been arranged in a tabbed story map and with links to a number of contextual information, documents, etc., to help people internally get a better understanding of manufacturing and processing and that kind of information. So a couple of really good examples of leveraging what's out there. I'm going to only point you to one more area of our resource of our COVID-19 hub page, which is the GIS resources section, which is available here. This is the area that if you really want to go and take the information to the next level, get access to some of the data, you might want to look at this area. There's a few great blog posts in here. There's even a link to a podcast. There's also links to some blog information about configuring your own dashboard. And just before I hand it over to Brian, just one note on creating responsive dashboards, which Brian's going to talk about, is that this has really been a lesson for us and a lot of the organizations we've been talking to about making our dashboards mobile friendly. At least 50%, and in some cases dramatically more than 50% of the traffic that's being directed to these websites is mobile first or on device first. So we're really trying to incorporate that into as a best practice for building this stuff. So with that, I'll hand it over to Brian, and Brian will dive into showing us some stuff that he's been working on.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Jeff. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen as well because we're going to work right in the web here. All right, so here we are back on the Esri Canada's hub, so the same website that Jeff was just showing us. And specifically, I'm in that resources section that he was mentioning, and I'm in this open data area. And this is a good spot where we can come and get authoritative case data from across the country. So my goal for today is to actually build a dashboard from scratch. So I'm actually not going to use any of the templates that Pierre had brought up. We're going to go right from ground zero, get our data, put it into a map, and build ourselves a dashboard. And this has all been inspired by some of the work that I did with the Public Health Agency of Canada in getting their dashboard up and running. So you'll notice lots of similarities between what I build today and what was built for the Public Health Agency of Canada. So the first thing I need is data, of course. So I'm going to come in here to this authoritative government case data section. And this opens a nice open data hub for me. And you can see I've got case data from all over, BC, Manitoba. The one I'm going to work with is actually the authoritative source that comes directly from the Public Health Agency of Canada. So I can select on that. And all I need to do, I could download it and all that, but it's better to just, with a WebGIS approach, is to just go ahead and grab the geo service and just use it directly. That way, anytime an update's made, which is twice daily in this case, it will reflect in anything that I build. So I've copied that, and then I'm just going to come over here into a basic web map, and we'll just go ahead and add that. So just add layer from the web, and paste that in. Now, when you do that, people will notice you get this query bit at the end. This is just a URL parameter, and this would allow you theoretically to filter the data if you would put a query in, but we don't need to do that. We're going to take the whole cut of the data. So we'll do that, and we'll just add the layer. And so that's added in. It's nothing very exciting in the map because all it is a table. So let me just show you what that table looks like. All we have is for each day and each province, we have the number of confirmed cases, number of deaths, as well as some other figures like recovered and tested. So that's what's in that table. And then all I've done just ahead of time, just in order to speed things up here today, is I've taken a cut of this data and I've just aggregated it into a feature service so that I can have a nice map to look at. So if I open up this feature service, again, I'll just look at the table. We can see again, I just have a province name, and then all I've done is done an aggregation with, total amount of cases, total recovered, total tested, and total deaths. And then there's also a population field. What I want to point out here, though, is that I don't have an incidence number. So typically, and especially when I was working with Public Health Agency of Canada, they'd always want to show case information based on population, so an incidence number. And for them, it was always, number of cases per 100,000. Now, in a traditional GIS, what we would end up doing is I would create a new field, and then in that new field, I would, run a calculation for total cases versus population. But that's a pain to keep updated. So luckily, now ArcGIS Online has arcade expressions, and I can calculate all that directly in the symbology. So all I need to do here is come into the symbology, and in the number 1 area here and choose an attribute to show. Instead of choosing a field, I can actually just choose a custom expression. So let's go edit this custom expression. And you see I have one commented out, so I'll just uncomment it so I don't have to fat finger anything. And all this expression is doing for me is it's taking the field total cases. It's then going to divide it by feature, by the population field, and then divide that by 100,000. And of course, remembering back to your, grade school days with bed mass, of course, it's going to do our brackets first and then do the other division. So I've now applied that arcade expression, so we'll hit OK. And it's going to go ahead and smart map all that for me. So it went ahead and decided, oh, maybe I want to use circles. In this case, I think I'm going to choose a choropleth map to show my case incidence level. So let's select that, and it draws one for me. And I'm just going to change this around to make it a little nicer. So I'm going to classify this data using natural breaks. I'm going to add one more class so it's a bit more fine-grained. And then finally, I'm going to change the color to a nice blue color. I think that's a better representation. Also, for any of these scales, you can easily invert the color ramp to make them more understandable. So there we go. And the last thing I'm going to do is just turn our transparency off because there's no need to zoom in any further in this case. So that's all good to go. Hit done. And here we are. So we have our nice map. Obviously, there's lots of other things I could do, add more data, maybe configure pop-ups. But for the interest of time, we'll just say that that's a done product. So we'll go ahead and save that. And then now let's start building our dashboard. So I can just come right up here into Share, create a web app, and then choose a dashboard. And we'll go ahead and generate that. And just like that, it's going to bring our nice fancy map in, and we're ready to start building. So I'm going to rely heavily on that case data that I pulled from the open data site to build a very informative dashboard. So the first thing I want is an indicator that shows me the case number. This is something that I think most people are interested in when they come and look for information on COVID-19 in Canada. So I'll grab my data table, and then all I'm going to do here is just map a statistic from one of the fields, which would be maximum, and then the field would be confirmed cases. So this is just going to grab the highest number of confirmed cases that it can find within that field. So because cases will always increase, they never go away, this is a good way of doing this. So we have our number. So it looks like today there's a little under 88,000 cases in Canada. So let's make give it a little context. So this is our total cases. And I'm pretty happy with that. I don't like this last update text at the bottom here. It works in some senses, but in this case, I don't want to confuse people about when things were updated. So I just come over here into the General tab, and I can just turn that off. So we'll hit Done, and I'll just drag this above my map. And I'm going to go ahead and create just one more of these indicators, this time for deaths. So same process, grab my COVID-19 data, make a maximum, and then just choose deaths instead of cases here. And then for my indicator, just call it total deaths. There we go. And then turn off my last update. There. And we'll drag it side by side. And already we've got sort of a semblance of a dashboard coming along. Now you notice I've chosen a black base map for my map, which I think looks pretty sharp. So I want my dashboard to actually match that. So what you can do is you can come in here and you can just switch the theme to dark. And just close that out. And you see it switches my whole dashboard into a dark theme. So this is great actually because I don't actually have to go into each one of those little cards and make a change. I can just do a general change from light to dark. So I like working in dark mode. I find it easier on the eyes. I think it looks sharper. But I have come across lots of circumstances where, you know, a client would want it in the light mode because it matches the communications guidelines for a website, a white website, better for them. So the nice thing is I don't have to create two. I can just switch back and forth, and it's all, the dashboard does all the work for me. Okay, now let's get into the nitty gritty and actually start creating some charts. So we're going to choose a serial chart. Again, we're going to grab our COVID-19 data. And this chart here, what I want to show is just how many new cases we've had over, since this whole thing started, back in January. So to do that, I'm going to use my categories from features. I need date as one of my axes. So this is my bottom axis. And then the series that I'm looking to map would be my cases today. So there we go. So we have a nice understanding of how many new cases have come in each day as we proceeded. So this is already a pretty good looking chart, but there's some nice tricks that I can show you here just to make this look even better. So the first thing we're going to want to do is go onto the value axis here. Because I've noticed on my hover pop-ups, anytime I get over 1,000, it actually rounds it. It does 1.4K, for example. And in something like cases, I want the actual real numbers. So on my value axis, I can actually that's being caused by formatting. So I could format this differently, or I could just simply turn the formatting off. And you'll see that changes the axis as well. So that's very handy. The other thing I'd like to point out is this is a long period of data that we're looking at, so I might want to be able to narrow into a smaller time window. So to do that, on the category axis, I can turn on the scroll bar. So I'll turn that on, and what that allows me to do is come in and zoom in. So maybe I'm only interested in April and May, so I get a better understanding of the cases. It redraws everything for me. So that's a useful little feature to have, especially when you're trying to show a long period of data like this. So that's looking pretty good. The last few things I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to turn off that last updated text, and then I'm just going to add a title. We can make it anything we want. Why don't we just keep it simple and just say daily cases? And then just add a little formatting here, so make it a nice heading 3 and center it. Okay, I'm happy with that. So we'll hit done. And we have our first chart. So let's keep going. We'll keep making a few more charts, give the map maybe a bit more real estate. So we're going to create another serial chart here. This one, actually, I'm not going to use my COVID-19 data. I'm going to use my cases by province, my feature service. So I'll grab that. And this time what I want to do is just show how many cases there are in each of the provinces, so I understand which provinces are most affected. So I'm going to do a category field. I could use the full English name, but I have a nice abbreviation field in here to save myself some space. So we'll do that. And then the series, all I'm looking for is total cases here. So there we are. So that's looking pretty good. Now I am noticing this RT at the end. This is for repatriated travelers. And that's not really relevant to us anymore. It was at the start of the pandemic. So I'm just going to apply a quick filter on here and just say that, English name is not equal to, and I just got to find it in my list here, repatriated travelers. And you see that dropped it off the chart for me, so there's not as much confusion. So that's looking good. Again, I'm going to go to my value axis and just turn off that formatting because it's not required. And now I'm going to go into the series actually and just make a few little changes. So you'll notice it's chosen the same nice orange color. But there might be a requirement that I want each of the provinces to be a different color. So I can just choose by category. That's going to create colors for all my provinces. Now, in all likelihood, I would probably go through here and change the colors, maybe make them match, a certain color scheme or what have you. But for now, I'll just leave them. I think this is a nice way of visualizing all this. And then, again, just back to a few little housekeeping things. Turn the last update off. And then just edit the title here. We'll just call this Total Cases by Province. And I guess it should be province and territory, but I'll just leave it as province for now. And just to make everything consistent, we'll give it some formatting. So we'll hit done. Okay, so those are two fairly straightforward charts that we can make nice and easily. Now I'm going to make a few that are, marginally more complicated, but not a whole lot. So for this one, again, choose a serial chart. I'm going to use my COVID-19 data. And in this case, I want to see how the total amount of cases has progressed in each of the provinces. And I want to show that all in one chart. That's actually a lot of data to show. So there's a few things I'm going to do. So I'm going to actually choose this grouped values, which is the default. And then I'm going to choose a category field, which is going to be date, because I want to see how things have progressed over time. So we'll choose date. And this is going to look like nonsense for a little while here. And then I want to be able to split all this data by the name of the province. That way I have new series for each one of these. So I'll just choose name here. Okay, now the chart's looking even worse, which is fine. And then finally, the statistic I want to map is for each day, what was the maximum amount of cases in each one of those provinces. So again, we'll choose maximum, and then we can just choose confirmed cases here. And there we have it. We have this pretty nonsensical looking chart right now. That's because it's a bar graph. So let's go and fix that right away so it's a bit easier to understand. So if we come over on to series here, I'm going to actually change this from a bar to a line. Okay, this is looking a little better. So we can see we have Canada up here, and then each of the provinces have their own line. Now, I don't actually like having Canada up here because it skews our results and it eats up a lot of the chart real estate. So come back to our data tab, and let's run a little filter here. So just name, and we'll just make it not equal again, and this time choose Canada. So that removes that from the chart. So that's good. So I'm happy with this, but definitely some things we can do to improve it. So some stuff I've already shown you. So we're going to turn that scroll bar on so that we can come in and narrow into specific time periods if we'd like. And then the other thing we're going to do is go onto the value axis. Again, turn off our formatting. So that's looking good. And then come on to general, turn our last updated, and then we'll give it a title. So this one we'll just maybe call this case progression. Yeah, I think that looks good. Okay, so let's just sit back and look at this. Now, this looks okay, but it's a little hard to understand because I actually have to hover over here to understand, what province I'm looking at. So we need a legend, I think. So what we're going to do is go to the chart tab, and I'm going to go ahead and put a legend on the side. So put that in. And there we have it. We have a nice legend. And something that people might not be aware of is this legend is actually interactive. So if I were to remove, let's say, Ontario and Quebec, I just click on the icon here, I get a whole different chart now, and it rescales everything for me automatically. So this is very handy, especially, Ontario and Quebec have a lot of cases, so they really skew the chart. So it's nice to be able to toggle them on and off. Now, I find this isn't something that's well known, so I want to bring some attention to that. So I can do that by going back into my general tab and adding a description. So just to show you, I could write whatever I want here, and it shows at the bottom. But I'm going to be a little fancier, and I'm going to use this source button here to actually input some direct HTML code into my description. So we'll hit source, and then I'm just going to jump down here and grab this chunk of code, and we'll just paste that in and hit the source button again. And there we go. We got this fancy chunk of code, and it's pretty simple. All it is it just did a write justify for me. So it says click legend dots to toggle so that people are aware of that. And then the other fancy thing I added here was some links. So if they click this Esri Canada, it will actually link them out to our Esri Canada hub page. And if they click this get the data, I'll click that right now just to show you. It's going to actually link out to that open data page where the COVID-19 data is from. So this is really great for people, who are looking at your dashboard and want to make something similar to what you have, but maybe want a slightly different view. You can give them quick access to that open data. So that's really handy stuff. Okay, so this is looking much better. I'm happy with this one. So we'll hit done on this one. And we'll drag this on to the bottom. And I'm just going to create one more chart just to show how we can use multiple series, and we can resize these however we want. Not going to spend too much time on that. And we'll grab our serial chart and just do one more quick chart. So again, our COVID-19 data. This case, I just want to show case status. How many people are recovered, how many people have died from it, and how many are basically still active cases. So for that, I'm going to do features. Category field, like usual, is going to be date because it's going to be a time progression. And then I'm going to add a few series in. So I'm going to do my confirmed cases. Then I'm going to add another series, which will be our deaths. There we are. And we'll add one more series, which is going to be recovered, number recovered. Okay, so now we have a pretty terrible looking chart. That's fine. We'll go ahead and fix it. So we're going to come on to the series here, and we're going to make these stacked. So there we go. So now all of the values are stacked. Now this is still looking not so great, because what's happened here is it's mapping all of the different provinces as well as Canada. So in this particular sense for this chart, I just want Canada. So again, we'll come back to data and just put a filter on here. So name equals, and this time we will choose Canada. Okay, this is looking much better. So let's just add those nice tips and tricks that I mentioned before. So put our scroll bar on, turn our formatting off. And then the series, I'm going to change that orange color. We'll make it blue to match the map. And then deaths is pretty ominous, of course, so we'll make that red. And I like that green, so we'll leave that one. And then all we need here is to turn off our last updated and add a quick title. So for this one, maybe we'll just call it case status for now. Okay. So we'll center that and make it an H3. Perfect. So that's done, and we're just going to stack this one on the bottom. It's probably not the most relevant, so we can stack them, and you can see we can stack multiple items. Okay, so we're done with charts. Now there's one other element that I want to be able to add, and what I've done is I've pre-made a web application that has case data by health region, and I want to be able to bring that into my dashboard so it's all in one spot. So to do that, all I need to do is use this embed content. So grab that, and all it needs is the URL. So I have this one saved for me here. So here it is here. Grab that. And it's going to add that in. So there we go. So I'll hit done. And I'm just going to stack this on top of the map card. There we go. So now I have a little toggle here. I can switch over and see my embedded content. So this looks okay, but you know what? The real estate's pretty small here. I'm not thrilled with that. So what I'm going to do is make some more real estate for this when I switch over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group my indicators with my map so that they all move at the same time. So to do a group, all you do is go up to the drag item and you just hold the shift key down and you grab, and you'll see it turns green where it normally turns blue. And then you just group as a row. I'll do the same for this one. So hold the shift key and drag down. And there we have it. So now what happens is when I do the embed content, I now have a lot more screen real estate. So that's great. So let's go ahead and save this. Now there's one other thing I just want to show before we go any further. So you notice on this embedded content, when I come here and I click on a health region, I get this nice pop-up. This is good. This shows me reported cases and my case incident and all that. But the problem is, because it's not using the full screen because it's in a dashboard, when I go to a smaller version like that, it actually automatically goes to what's called the mobile version. So if I click on our pop-up, you'll see the pop-up goes here and it's hard to see. And that's not very good. It doesn't work. So anybody on a smaller screen than what I'm using would have problems with that pop-up. So I want to be able to fix that. And just so you guys are aware, this is a real problem that I had when I was working with FAC. We did a very similar thing, and we racked our brains. How are we going to fix this problem? Well, the answer actually lies in our URL parameters, which are sort of a new thing for Esri, but they're very useful, and I hadn't used them before. So what I can do is I can force this web application to not use its mobile view. So to do that, I just need a very short piece of code, and all it is mobile breakpoint, and then I just give it the breakpoint, which is number of pixels. So let's go with 300. So I just copy that. And then all I need to do is find the question mark after the index here, and it'll be before ID, and I just paste that in. And it's going to reload everything for me. And we'll hit done. So now I have a nice mobile breakpoint, so it will stay in the desktop version for longer, which is handy. So just to show that to everyone, if I make my screen real estate small again, if I click on one of these pop-ups, you'll see I'm back to the nice desktop pop-up. So this is functioning much better. So I just wanted to point everyone's attention towards URL breakpoints. They're very, very useful. Okay, so this is great, but I need to now make a mobile version. So I know you're thinking, oh, he just went through all that to make that one version. The mobile version is going to take forever. It actually doesn't. It's fairly straightforward to do. So let me show you how to do that. So we want to start with what we've already built. We don't want to have to rebuild everything. So all we're going to do is create a copy of this dashboard. So we'll save this as, and we'll just do mobile. There we go. And hit save. And we're now ready to start building our mobile version. Now, when I'm building a mobile version, the best tool going is the Google Chrome Developer Tools. So let's just show you what this would look like in mobile. So if I come up here to my More Tools and choose Developer Tools, I have a nice mobile view. So this is going to show me on a Pixel 2 XL, what this dashboard is going to look like. And you can see I can choose a bunch of different phones if I wanted. You can see this really doesn't look very great, and that's because, I designed the dashboard around a lot of horizontal space, and on a phone you have vertical space, but not horizontal space. So let's close out of our developer tools and remedy the problem really quickly. So all we want to do is stack everything on one, so we're not seeing so much stuff on that small screen. So let's drag all these over, and we'll stack them. And drag this guy over and stack it. And then this is two of them, so I could drag them individually, or I can just drag the whole stack. We'll drag the whole stack. Okay, so I think already this is going to look much better. A few other tips and tricks, though, is these charts are really been visualized for horizontal viewing, which is not going to work on a phone. So there's a nice, easy way to fix that. So let's configure this, and we'll just go to the chart. And we'll switch that to horizontal. So it looks like this. And we see I have this negative, and this is actually because one of the days BC changed the way it reports, so we had a negative case number one day. So we can actually easily fix that on the value axis. We just come up to our min value, and instead of automatic, we'll make it 0. So that's fixed. So that looks good. And we'll hit done. And I must have clicked something wrong. That's all right, though. This one we'll switch over as well. So just a chart, we'll make it horizontal. Let's be better on a phone. And then this one I like doing this way, but obviously my legend on this side is not going to work. So that's an easy fix as well. So we'll just put the legend on the bottom. So that's easy. And then this one, I think it's probably more understandable like this, so we'll leave it. So we'll hit save. And now what you'll see is if we go back right to our map at the start here, and we go and we go into our developer tools. And you can see already this is looking much better once we get the map over. So now as we come through, we have a nice mobile version of this dashboard. So this is much easier to use. It's going to be much better. And so what I would do at this point, I'm not going to show you just because we're running out of time, but we would put I can take both of these links because they're two separate dashboards, and I would embed them in an experience builder. So here you can see I have an experience builder already generated for us. You can tell that by the URL because it's experience.arcgis.com. And this will dynamically rescale. So you'll see this is my desktop version. But as soon as I switch into a mobile view, so if I go to my developer tools here, and you'll watch, it'll reload everything, and it puts it all into the mobile version automatically for me. So Experience Builder is a really nice container for when we're using, when we want to have a mobile version of a dashboard. And that's it for me. That's my tips and tricks. Happy to answer some questions at the end here. And hope everyone has lots of fun creating their own COVID-19 dashboards.
Thanks, Brian. So that's fantastic. I want to emphasize that what we've been talking about today, and the focus of this webcast has been the system of engagement, the dashboard, the communication products that are available to us, hub, story map, dashboard, that kind of thing. But that fits into an overall framework that really also allows analysis, emerging hotspots, statistically significant areas, that type of stuff. And we'll probably get into that in another webcast. Now I'm going to pass it over back to Pierre. We actually did have a question come in about training, Pierre. So
Okay.
this is the section where I know you're going to address that. So it was an excellent question. There's some excellent questions coming in. I'm not sure if we're going to hit all the questions before the top of the hour, but we'll go beyond that a little bit for those of you who can stick around. Pierre?
Okay, thank thank you, Jeff. So if you're not aware, Esri has a disaster response program, which we call the DRP. So if your GIS capacity is exceeded or you need emergency support, there's several ways we can help you. So we can provide you with free software, workflows, data, configuration, and other technical support. There is also a special COVID-19 response package available for free to public agencies responding to this pandemic. And Esri will provide the ArcGIS Hub response template I mentioned earlier for coronavirus, along with a 6-month ArcGIS Online subscription with ArcGIS Hub Basic and ArcGIS Insight. So if you need assistance, go to esri.com/disaster, request assistance, and I also recommend that you contact your local account manager for advice before you submit your request. Esri also has a learning plan that currently includes 27 courses designed to teach you not only the core GIS technology, but also the tools you need to prepare for and respond to COVID-19. So many courses are free and some are fee-based instructor-led. And one of the courses I highlighted here shows you how to create your own dashboard, similar to what Brian did, and they use the Johns Hopkins University dashboard as an example. So a lot of free resources under the esri.com/training website. Now there is also free access to ArcGIS Online and over 20 apps until the end of August. You can sign up. You have until the 30th of June to get access to this Learn ArcGIS organizational account for up to 60 days that includes complementary software and the libraries of lessons to this new Learn ArcGIS Hub. So I encourage you to go there if you have free software for 2 months and tools. Esri Canada also offer training specifically for COVID-19. You can see the list here. So I encourage you to go to the Esri Canada training page. You can search for COVID-19 and these courses will come up. And most of them are either 1 or 3 days duration and they are fee-based instructor-led courses. And you'll get a copy of these slides after. Now I want to highlight some of these upcoming webinars. So on the 11th of June, my colleague Dave Hamilton will host a webinar on our emergency management operations solution with special guests Kurdeep Singh and Ben Errol from GOBC and Jimmy Galt from the BC Ministry of Health. So you can now go to the Esri Canada webinar page and register. And also I want to highlight the Esri Public Safety webinar series, which is more focused on technical advancement and the best practices related to GIS in public safety. And you can see the next one here is on June 2nd on the mobile tool for mapping wildfire. Now, the Esri International User Conference will take place this year. It will be a virtual event. It will be the 13th, 14th, and 15th of July, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. The theme this year is GIS, Interconnecting Our World. The first day, July 13, will be free and complimentary for anyone and be live streamed. It'll be the normal plenary session you get in San Diego. Each day there's going to be a keynote speaker. So if you want, registration is open now. You can go use your ArcGIS license and register for this event, or user conference. So I'm going to pass it back to Jeff now to go over some of the questions that came in. Jeff?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, a bunch of excellent questions have come in. Thank you very much. Brian, maybe I could get you, a couple of the questions have been related to where do I find the data, and specifically not only the case data, but other data that has available. Maybe it would be valuable for you to share your screen again and just show the open data section of the Esri Canada site as we go through some more of the questions.
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, you've partially answered the question for me there, Jeff, in the sense that probably Esri Canada's open data site is the best spot just because we have compiled all all that data in one place. I don't think I'm able to share my screen 'cause